In this tutorial, we are going to create a login form for the website. So I'm going to start out by importing from Flask a new function that we haven't used before called Flash. And what this will do is it will flash some messages on the screen for the user to see. So next I'm going to go to down a little bit further, and I'm going to create a new form right under the register form, and I'll call it class login form, and it's going to extend Flask form. And there are going to be a few fields, username, and that's going to be a string field. And let's say username, and then I'll say validators that there needs to be input. Then next password is going to be equal to string field. Then password. Also do a validator. Alright, then submit. And I'll say submit field. Sign in. Alright, so I could also, okay, so let's go in. So there is our Flask form right there. Let's go ahead and create a login template. So I'm going to go into templates, and I'm going to create a new one that's called login.html. And in here, it's going to have a lot of stuff that's similar to the register template. So I'm just going to go over here and do a quick copy paste of register.html. So I'll copy all that. Come in here into login. Definitely want to change the name, the title of this thing, and the header. Login. And there is also going to be something a little bit different. I'm going to, since I want to flash messages to the user, I'm going to use a utility function from another thing from Flask Bootstrap. So I need to import this. It's from the Bootstrap folder from their utils.html file, and I'll just call it utils, so you have to name it so that you can use it later. Alright. Then next, I'm going to come down, and right here in the content, before the container class, I'm going to add this right here, utils.flashed messages. And this is going to create the HTML necessary to show the messages that I flash. So in Python, if I call on the flash function, then it's going to show these messages in this HTML right here. So everything else is going to be the same as with the registration form. I'm also going to keep the submit button with the primary color, which is blue. And I'll go ahead and save this. Alright, so now we have our login template. So I need to create a login route, so that if you go to /login, then you'll, so creating a route /login. And since this is a form, I'm going to have it handle both the getting of the form and the submitting of the form, so the post. And I'll just call this function login. So it's going to have a form, and you'll notice that it's going to be, we're going to start out pretty similar to what's down here in the register form, but it's going to be a login form. And I'm going to try to validate it. So if validate on submit. So that means that if this passes and is true, that means someone submitted information in the form and it passed all of the validations. So at this point, I'm going to query the database, user.query, and then I'm going to filter by the username being equal to the username from the form. and then I'm going to get the first thing. Usually when you do a filter, there could be multiple people. In this case, all of our users have unique usernames, so there's only ever going to be one. But you just use this over here just to get the first thing so that you return a single thing instead of a list. So that's the user, and I'm going to say if there's not a user, or maybe there is a user, but then when you check the password, using the form.password.data. So if either of those things, so if there's not a user, meaning that the username was wrong because it wasn't in the database, or if there's not, if the check password comes back as false, right? If there's not the right password here, then we want to show an error to the user, right? We want to flash an error to the user. And we don't want to tell them which thing is wrong. We don't want to tell them if the username is wrong or if the password's wrong, because we don't want them to know whether the username exists. So say the username or the password is incorrect. And I'm also going to choose a color for this. So using the Bootstrap colors, danger is red, so it's going to show up in red. And then I want to return rendering the template of login.html. And remember, login.html depends on a form because it's going to render it using the quick form function. And so I have to say what the form is. And I'm just going to say the form is equal to this login form here, so the one I created back here. So the form is going to be equal to form. And if they passed all of this, so if there was a user and the password was right, then I will return welcome plus the user.username, and then plus an exclamation point. So we're going to change this in the next tutorial session. We're going to change it so that you go to the home page, and on the home page it says welcome to the username. But right now, if we were to go to the home page, we would be on a different page and in a different route, and we wouldn't know who the user is anymore. So we're going to have to use a different Flask extension to keep track of a user that's logged in. So let's say, what if none of these things happening? Like, let's say you tried to validate the form and it didn't work, but maybe because the form is still empty, the user hasn't entered anything yet. So in that case, you just want to return the same thing. You want to render the template with the form. All right, so just one last thing we'll do to make it easy to get to the login page is we'll just add this login to the navigation bar. So we go up here, and I'll add it right in here. So we'll just do a login view. It's going to be equal to a view login. And then down here in the navigation bar, I'll put it right before the register view. So login view. All right, I'll save that. Now let's try it out to see if it actually works. So I'll restart the app and take me to home. So I'll refresh this, and I can see that there's now a login link. So that's good. I'll go ahead and click on login, and I'll try it. I think last time I created a username Mike with the password of password. That's not good. It's showing up as a plain text right here. You don't want the user's password to show up like that. Let me try to sign in anyway. It did say welcome Mike, so it did work. Let's go back and see why that happened. Probably because I didn't use a password field. Yep, so down here this password should be a password field. So save that, restart. Go back to the page. All right, let's try with a username and a password that don't exist. Okay, so go ahead and sign in right here, and it says the username or the password is incorrect. Let's use a username that exists, but I'll use a password that's wrong. Try and sign in. It says the username, but the password is incorrect. So I definitely can only do this if I have a correct username and a correct password. So sign in, and then it just returns this message to me right here. So we're going to change that in the future. Notice how the navigation bar is gone. This isn't HTML. If you view the source, where do I get to the source? Okay, I guess it's not letting me view the source because there's no source to view. It's not HTML. So this is just a string that was returned back here in the Flask app. So that's just temporary. You never want to do that, right? So next time in the next lesson, we are going to figure out how do we send them to the home page and still present them with a welcome message. So that is all for this lesson. So let's commit those changes. Go to Bash console. Let's take a look at the things we've changed so far. Looks like we changed Flask app, and then we also created a new file, login.html. I'm going to look at git diff, so I can see, okay, I definitely added the import for Flash. There's a new view for login. Hit space. I created a login form. I created a new login route. That all looks good. And then there's a new login file template. So I'm going to add all those things. So take a look at what's ready to be committed, and I'll commit this. And let's see, I'll just say created a login form and a login page or template. All right, so those things are committed.